Tonight, British servicemen and women are engaged from air, land and sea. Their mission? To remove Saddam Hussein from power.
Largest and most secretive investment funds. Nicknamed the Ex-President's Club, Carlyle's employees have included both President Bush, H.W., and George W. Bush, former British Prime Minister John Major.
Blair, what are you doing?
I'm just... You leaving? No, not yet. On this street, please.
Yeah, I told that to him.
In 2007, I took the view that this was going to get very bad, and I personally, I'm telling you, I'm invested in government bonds, and I'm very pessimistic for the moment until we see what's going to happen next year. But I think...
Having these politicians on board is pretty great. I mean, they know things that nobody else knows. In fact, you know, Frank Carlucci was setting up policies while he was in office as Secretary of Defense that he's now capitalizing on as chairman of the Carlyle Group. And, you know, it's a brilliant scheme if you think about it. You set up the policies, you leave office, you go into business, and then you exploit them. George Bush, James Baker, Richard Darman is over there, who's a former budget director in the White House. Arthur Levitt, the former SEC chairman. William Kennard, the former FCC chairman.
In Europe, you have former prime ministers from England, John Major, Karl Otto Pohl from the head of the the German central bank. Eberhard Kuhnheim, who's the chairman of the supervisory board of BMW, the Asia part, former prime minister of Thailand, former president of the Philippines, Fidel Ramos, and at one point also the former prime minister of South Korea was on their board, a man named Mr. Park, who used to head up the largest steel company in South Korea.
The list just goes on and on and on. So these guys carry a tremendous amount of influence, and they are able to predict trends in global markets, predict trends in political shifts, and in some ways, and this is the sort of the most insidious part, and if you want to be cynical about the Carlyle Group, you have to be concerned about their ability to influence these trends and actually affect change in government policy, which would positively affect if you're a Republican during a Democratic administration in the White House, for example, someone like James Baker, you're able to revolve out of the White House into the Carlyle Group, work there for a period of time, and then when that Democratic administration is through, like Clinton's was through in 2000, you're able to revolve right back into the White House. Colin Powell did that. Colin Powell did a little consulting for the Carlyle Group. He knows the guys very well. He knows Frank Carlucci very well. Frank Carlucci was his mentor as he came up through the ranks. And I think his relationship with the Carlyle Group personifies the gray area that the Carlyle Group works within. Some of these guys are never officially hired. You know, some of them are only put on retainer. Some of them are paid in very ambiguous ways, like through investments that they make through the Carlyle Group or the amount of money that they help raise, that kind of thing. So it's never really clear at any given time who exactly is working for the Carlyle.
Bush Sr., after he left the presidency, he was working for Carlyle and made several swings through East Asia, going to Thailand, going to South Korea and other places, sort of looking for investment opportunities for Carlyle, and Carlyle finally settled in South Korea. And then the way that overlaps with policy is during the Asia crisis, the International Monetary Fund came in with this rescue package for South Korea that the United States backed, and the U.S. used the IMF crisis to push through deregulation and changes in rules around foreign ownership, the changes that they'd been unable to press through, maybe 25 or 30 years of trade policy. In a matter of months, under this IMF package, they just rammed all these changes through. And one of the changes was allowing foreign banks to take ownership shares, controlling shares of Korean banks. And so Carlyle has been right in there, and they've bought one of the largest banks there, commercial banks. And so you can say that, Bush Sr. didn't cut the deal, but when someone comes of that stature, that gives a kind of stamp of approval for people wondering who this investment group is. They say, well, it's backed by the former president of the United States, and it carries a lot of weight.
I've said that it's the worst kind of conflict of interest, particularly when your son is the president of the United States. So while Junior is talking to heads of state about war and other weighty matters, Papa is talking to them or having conversations with them about Carlyle. It's just, I find it disgusting.
Okay, are you ready to deliver?
One fateful day, we were having a hearing on the upcoming defense authorization legislation, which is going to authorize almost an unprecedented amount of money for defense spending, $400 billion.
After September 11th, huge defense money was unearthed.
Our men and women deserve the best weapons, the best equipment, and the best training. And therefore, I've asked Congress for a one-year increase of more than $48 billion for national defense, the largest increase in a generation.